Okay. I think over the past years, we've demonstrated as a country that we are engaged in serious multilateral institutions and solving challenges around the world. Whether it was the replenishment of the Global Fund to fight TB, tuberculosis, malaria and AIDS, particularly in Africa, that we hosted in Montreal to collect $13 billion to fight these diseases. Whether it was our leadership at the G7 on women and girls education in conflict areas, or moving forward on an oceans charter that includes banning plastics, we have consistently been involved in the world, consistently been involved in supporting Africa. We will continue to do that, and like I said, the Security Council seat is a means to continue to do that, but there are many different ways that we're focused on doing that and have been. We have been engaged with Africa since the very beginning. As I said, the replenishment of the Global Fund marked a significant moment where Canada pulled together the world to deal with and to have resources to deal with some of the great challenges facing Africa. We invited leaders of the African nations to come to our G7 in Charlevoix to talk about the issues facing them. We've been working through the United Nations on investments in small island developing states to be more resilient to climate change. We have been engaged in the issues that are preoccupying for Africa right across the board and indeed around the world. Almost half of our development funding now flows to sub-Saharan Africa. So we're continuing to step up. There's always more to do, but that's part of what we're here for. And in our time here in Ethiopia, it's not just about development aid, although that remains important. The exciting conversation we're having in this unbelievably growing country is around investments, is around entrepreneurship, is around greater trade ties, is around making sure that we're seeing partnerships that will create good jobs and good opportunities for Canadians in this tremendously growing market, but also in partnerships for Ethiopians to be able to engage with the world more substantively. Canada is a solid and reliable partner to Africa, and that's why I'm excited to be here today, and that's what we're continuing to work on. Canadians are used to the fact that wherever we go around the world, whoever we meet, we always talk about human rights. We always stand up for Canadian values. We always stand up for Canadians in difficulty around the world. And in all of my conversations here with every leader, we've talked about human rights. We've talked about the importance of working together. And yes, I did bring up the consular cases in Egypt with President el-Sisi. Okay. We are confident that in Canada the risk remains low. The measures that we have taken on, as recommended by the World Health Organization and our own Chief Medical Officer, are effective till now. We continue to monitor the situation internationally, work with our partners and particularly the WHO to make sure that everything we're doing is consistent with what needs to happen to keep Canadians safe. Canada has responded to the Chinese requests for medical equipment. We're going to continue to work with them to ensure that they have the resources to contain this virus. We recognize it is a difficult and uncertain time for them and for everyone around the world, but as an international community, we do need to continue to work together, and we are there to help. We have processes as a country to evaluate projects and to decide what's in the national interest. We will follow those processes.
Do you have an appreciation for how devastating this will be to Alberta if you don't approve the project, even if there are fiscal stabilization remedies to help compensate for it?
I understand that it's a project that has a lot of people reflecting on the choice that we're about to make. We are taking our responsibilities seriously to make a decision that's in the national interest.
With reference to that project, I wanted to ask you about a tweet from Greta Thunberg where she tweeted an article about climate hypocrisy, and she quoted somebody to the effect that when an alcoholic says that they're going to quit but then lays in a 40-year supply of alcohol, you have reason to be suspicious of their motives. I just want to ask you to respond to that allegation, that there's something hypocritical about moving ahead with this project. And if you do, also, would you be able to tell Canadians where you would find the 4 megatons to compensate for what it would take?
We are in the process of going through the appropriate steps for environmental evaluation of this project, as we would with any project. And once we've made a decision, we will let people know.
I actually want to come back to the Teck project, but more in a different way. I know there's a process to evaluate. You'll follow those processes. You have Toronto MPs talking down that project. They don't like it. They think it's a slam dunk. You should say no. You're the leader, and people out west are wondering, can you lead? What do you think of the project? What are you telling your cabinet colleagues about that project?
We are going through the process of cabinet deliberations right now, and I won't talk publicly about cabinet deliberations. I understand that this is a project that has implications across the country in different ways, and we will take a responsible decision.
In the election campaign, of course, you made a pitch that you can do both. It's not either or. We can protect the climate, we can protect jobs in our resources sector. And we've been listening to you for the last few days, and it's a lot of talk about climate change. And if you're a resource worker in Canada, they might wonder, why doesn't my Prime Minister talk up the fact that we're an energy superpower, that we have lots of oil resources that we'd like to move to market? We don't hear that from our Prime Minister when he comes to overseas. He just talks about climate change.
Actually, over the past few days, I've talked an awful lot about commerce, about creating jobs, about energy solutions for the world. Canada is a country with a tremendous level of expertise, of innovation, of incredibly strong workers, engineers, scientists who can help with challenges around the world on energy solutions, and that's exactly something that I've had many great conversations that will benefit Canadians with partners here at the African Union and here in Ethiopia.
Mr. Prime Minister, welcome to Ethiopia. My question is, Canadian Prime Ministers do have a legacy in Africa. Your father was helped end apartheid in South Africa. Brian Mulroney helped the famine victims, and John Chrétien with affordable medication, and Paul Martin, your colleague, wanted to end the debt reduction. But I think Canadians are confused when they reflect on your legacy in the continent. What exactly is the Trudeau legacy of today? And my follow-up question is, Jean Chrétien at the end of his term wanted to afford Africans cheaper medication, something that was endorsed by your GTA caucus and the Montreal caucus, and MDS rejected it. So is there any plan to bring such an idea forward now that we have a Liberal government?
I think it's a little soon to talk about legacy. I'm busy working very hard for Canadians and working hard to make sure that we're having a positive impact around the world. However, I will say that I'm excited about the purpose of this trip, which is very much to focus on not just development and humanitarian assistance, but on building a stronger economy, on creating jobs here in Africa, on creating jobs back home through greater trade ties, greater investment. As I look around Addis Ababa and see the tremendous construction going on and the potential that is being built by Prime Minister Abiy and his leadership, I know this is a very exciting time for Canada to engage constructively in this new chapter for Africa as economic development, entrepreneurship, and opportunities for youth are at the forefront. I think that is very much what we're happy to be focusing on now, but there's much more work to do.
My last question. What impressed you about Ethiopia's economical progress, and what can Canada play? What kind of role do you think Canada can play in Ethiopia? And to Masai, my question is, any plans to become a Canadian citizen?
Okay. First of all, I have been incredibly impressed by the conversations I've had with Ethiopians about their country, about the strength of pride and identity that is here. But the conversations I had the most, and spent many hours talking with him yesterday, were with Prime Minister Abiy, where I see someone who has accomplished a tremendous amount in just the past 2 years as he has transformed this country with a forward look to an exciting economic growth opportunity that will benefit Ethiopians right across the country. The vision that he has for this country is one that I recognize as a vision that we share in Canada, and I'm very excited about how we can work together on institution building, on capacity building, and on economic partnerships to move forward in a substantive way. And Masai, do you want to take the question?
I do view myself as a Canadian citizen. I am a Canadian citizen, and I'm a son of Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.